Okay. So probably I say this, we always end up running over whenever we talk, but I'm trying to aim for about half an hour.
Yeah. We'll go for that then.
Go for it. See how we go.
Yeah.
Right. So I will do a quick count in and then I will get going.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, mark. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Geek Syndicate. Once again, I'm flying solo, as I have always dreamed and loved to do. Dave's off in Ireland somewhere, I think, doing the play. So he's kind of left me in the hot seat. So I thought I would bring someone in to have a bit of a chat. So this fella is a friend of the show. We've had him on plenty of times over the years, I believe. I don't know how many times, actually. He's not paying me to say any of this, by the way. So this is a warm welcome back to Shane Chesbney.
Hello, and thank you for the warm welcome, Barry.
That's all right, Shane. You're welcome, sir.
Always a pleasure to come on to Geek Syndicate. Way!
So before we kind of get into the main reason why I've called you on, Shane, and for the two people who have no idea who you are, would you like to give us?
On there, mate.
Well, you know, I was trying to butt you up, mate. Jesus.
No. Past that stage.
All right, for the 2 million people who have no concept of who Shane is, would you like to give people a brief rundown of your background, sir?
Sure thing. Okay, I sort of got into the comics industry, I suppose, about 1994 when I started self-publishing as a small press publisher. And then I moved into doing events in 2006, I believe it was, where I started the Birmingham International Comic Show, along with my friends James Hodgkins and Andy Baker. And as soon as I started doing comic shows, that was it. I got the bug. And I've been doing them ever since, really. I also play in a band with Charlie Adlard. And I like to draw as well, do lots of illustration work. And in my spare time, as a day job, I'm a microbiologist. And that's about me in a nutshell, really.
Which pretty much puts most people to shame in terms of like things that they're doing. I mean, it's a crazy amount of stuff that you do. I mean, I know you do all these things anyway. And every time we sort of talk, especially from the sort of comic convention side of things.
Yeah.
You always seem to be saying to me, right, after this convention, that's me done. Yeah. You know, it's too much. I'm trying to juggle too many things. I can't do this anymore. That's me done. And then the following year, every time I speak to you, you're like, not only am I going to do another convention, I'm also going to tack on another convention to that one, and we'll see how that goes. So we've kind of gone from, you know, obviously you were doing the ICE conventions in Birmingham, but they've now branched out and you now got ICE in Brighton.
Yeah.
Is it just Brighton? Or
Yeah, I did one in Margate as well last year.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. That was an experiment. I was invited over by the venue to come and run a comic convention or comic festival, I think they wanted to call it, at the venue. So I went in partnership with the venue, called it an ICE, because I thought, why not, you know, use the goodwill that the brand has to try and, you know, bring something to it rather than create something from scratch. And we didn't get enough people really in Margate. Put on a great show. You know, you look back at it, you know, look at the videos and the audio from the interviews and things like that. And we really did put on the best show we possibly could, but there just wasn't enough interest in that area for us to warrant going back again. So that was a one-off. Very glad that I tried it, you know. Because it's nice to bring comics conventions to areas that haven't got one, and there are a couple sort of nearby, but there's nothing actually in Margate that's all about comics. So you know, it was worth a try. There's a lot of creators who live there, you know, Cy Spurrier, Dan Abnett, people like that, who all wanted something in that town, and were very supportive, came along and wanted to support the event. An amazing guest list, you know. But unfortunately, there weren't enough comics fans in the area to support it.
Right. Okay.
So we sort of wound that one down. But I got fond memories of it all the same.
So how's Brighton been going? Because I'm assuming that's doing quite well because you've had a couple of those, haven't you?
Yeah, we did a couple in Brighton. The first one went okay.
Okay.
And yeah, we thought there's room for improvement, So we looked at other ways of doing it, and then hit lots and lots of problems with this year's Brighton show. Originally, it was going to be in November last year.
Right.
The venue accidentally double booked us, so we had to move our dates. That caused obviously lots of problems, and then on top of that, the train times became a problem because there were only so many weeks that trains were running from London to Brighton. And I believe it's still happening now. They're doing work on that line at the moment. So we were limited to only the dates that the trains were running, because there's no point in running a show somewhere like Brighton if there's no trains going there.
Yeah.
So we picked the only week that we could. We also had to change venues because the venue couldn't support us on that day. So it was a change of venue, change of dates, a date very limited by the dates. And obviously all these things caused issues. Exhibitors sometimes couldn't make it. Some people had to cancel. Some obviously visitors had to cancel. But despite all that, we actually managed to run a really successful show, and it went down really well. People had a really good time, and I was very happy with the final result. But running a show 5 hours from where you live is actually really exhausting. So I decided to. I don't know if I've actually announced this yet, but I am now anyway. So it's a scoop if I haven't.
Okay.
I've decided that will be the last. I have announced it, yeah. But that's going to be the last Brighton.
Right. Okay.
Did this year, simply because it was just too hard. Because I've got so many other things happening.
Yeah.
So that is the last Brighton. So at the moment, the only ice show still going is Birmingham.
Okay.
Which is due on the 31st of August. But primarily on the horizon right now.
Yes.
It's Comic Salopia.
Which is the reason why I've called you onto the podcast. I'm glad you said Comic Salopia, because in my head, I still wasn't 100% sure of how to pronounce Comic Salopia.
Yeah, it's interesting because we created the name. Myself and one of my colleagues because this isn't just me. Comic Salopia is a much larger. It's an organisation, and I'm just part of it. Quite an integral part, I like to think, but still only a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
There's lots of us involved in doing it. There are three main directors, and obviously Charlie Adlard is the patron. And so it's a much larger organisation with lots of partners, and so it's a different animal completely to ICE.
Right.
But when we come up with the idea of Comic Salopia, I did create the name, was because I wanted it to resonate with local people, and that word, that phrase has a lot of resonance with people in Shrewsbury, because Shrewsbury used to be called Salop.
Okay.
So Shropshire used to be called Salop, just to make things even more confusing. And the idea was that if people were unfamiliar with it, they would just Google the phrase, and then they would find out all about the history of Shropshire, because the word is it carries a lot of history. Mm-hmm. So the idea was that it would pique people's curiosity, if you like. By using that name, while at the same time people who live locally are just like, oh, that's great, we understand instantly what that word is, because it resonates with local people. They call themselves, people in Shrewsbury are proud Salopians.
See, that puts me to shame, because that goes to show how little research I've actually done. Because I just thought, oh no, Shane will have a reason for choosing that name. It'll be some fun story or whatever. So I won't bother Googling it. I won't bother doing any work whatsoever.
Well, that's what I'm here for, mate. Make you look good. So yeah, that's how it goes. So it's got that double sort of thing. And some people have rung me up and gone, what's Salopia? It's like, well, don't you want to find out? And I say, Google it and find out and read up on it. And it's quite interesting. So, Yeah, so that's what I say to everybody. Just Google it. And other search engines are available.
Yes. So what's the history behind how this convention came about?
Okay, there's a little bit of story there. So Charlie and I, for the last sort of 5 years, really, or so, have always had the idea in our heads that it would be great to do a festival in Shrewsbury, a comics festival, because it's the centre of the country. It's very central. It's easy to get to from all over the country. It's a beautiful town. It's a festival town. There are festivals here all through the summer, major festivals, the largest folk festival in the country, the second largest flower show in the country, a book festival, all sorts of stuff goes on, kids fest, food fest, all those things. So, it's got this tradition of being a great festival town. And there are 5 comic creators, professional comic creators living here. So it sort of made sense, really. So we've been mulling about with the idea for a few years, and then one of the current directors, Jane Mackenzie, was last year the mayor of Shrewsbury, and she approached Charlie and said, it would be great to do. Originally, the idea was a Comic-Con, in Shrewsbury, because obviously Comic-Cons are now mainstream. They're not culture anymore; they're a mainstream thing. So. Well, they are geek culture, but you know what I mean. They are very mainstream, so they're on people's radar. So obviously, her interaction with comics was through Comic-Con, and she said, "Oh, it'd be great to do one in Shrewsbury." And Charlie obviously instantly said in the conversation, I wasn't there, but I'm sure he said something along the lines of, "Well, let's do a festival instead. That would be much better." And you need to speak to Shane, because he has experience in running events for comics, so we need to get together, and that's how it began, really. Jane came to me. She invited me to a gig somewhere in Shrewsbury to see Dan Owen, actually, at a charity gig.
Oh, okay.
He's actually playing for us at a charity gig at the festival. So I went to that and I met Jane, and we got talking and instantly had a rapport. She didn't really know much about comics, but she just thought that, but she did recognise the literary value of them, which was an important thing. And she's a speech and language therapist by trade, so she has a great interest in anything that supports literacy. So that was the angle that she came from, and obviously I've got a massive interest in that as well. So we had these common interests, and Charlie was also there. It was comics. He was the comics laureate at the time. So all of this was happening. It all just seemed to be the right time. Everything came together at the right time, and we just created this idea of doing the festival right across the town. Just inviting some really guests, but also some really interesting guests, and it just sort of grew from there, really. And that was sort of last April, so a year ago.
Wow.
So in a year, it's gone from an idea to where we are now, which is, we're going to deliver it in just under 2 months. So we have turned it around quite quickly, actually. Usually I'd like it longer, but there you go.
I was going to say, given the fact that as opposed to a comic convention, this is actually a comic festival, which is a bigger beast. Well, it's a different beast as well, isn't it?
Totally.
It's a lot of moving parts. And what you've said, I keep saying you, but what I was having a sort of look around the site and whatever, and one of the things that I was drawn to, because I know Dave's been to this, is that you've used is it the Angeline? If I can't, Angelou, I can never say it right.
Angoulême.
That's the one.
Yeah.
In France, is it as a kind of template for this festival?
It's sort of, very much so. I mean, also the lakes as well. I actually conceived the idea of doing a festival in Shrewsbury just before the lakes started, and when the lakes happened and they did it and they delivered it really successfully, it's like, this is exactly how I envisioned Shrewsbury to be, what they would, but there were other things I wanted to do as well, that different, that were more like Angoulême perhaps, and obviously we can't do Angoulême because it's a different town with different geography, but very much based on the idea of a town-wide festival, getting the whole town involved, not just one building, not just a couple of buildings, but the whole town, so that everybody who comes into Shrewsbury that weekend knows damn well there's a comics festival going on.
So, and has the town got behind you on that front?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I mean, both councils, both the town council and the county council, have been really supportive, which has been instrumental in getting things going. Because if we didn't have their support, it couldn't happen. So, massive thanks to the Shrewsbury Town Council and Shropshire County Council. They come under a flak for a lot of things, as all councils do.
Yeah.
Usually the butt of everybody's hatred. But I have to say that everybody we have come in contact with, it's just been opening doors for us. A very different experience to what I've had at Birmingham Council, for example.
Right.
Where it's just the doors are closed shut, and then padlocked. But because they're just not interested. It's a city. They're not interested really.
Yeah.
Little arts events. They're more interested in something big. But in a town where you can actually, what we're doing is actually going to really change the town for the weekend. It's going to be, and for the whole year. There's lots of projects that we're putting into place with schools and libraries. They're actually going to have a really positive legacy impact on that town. So the council want that. They want the extra people coming in for the economy. They want the recognition. They want the artwork, because we're doing murals as well.
Yeah.
So they want all that. So they just say. I said to one of the councillors in a meeting, I said, could you tell me what the obstacles are going to be for us to, I laid out my plans to her, and I said, can you tell me what the obstacles are going to be, to make this happen? And she just said, there aren't any. There aren't going to be any. And that's been the attitude all the way through. At all of our meetings with various councillors and council workers and officers, and it's all been very sort of like, well, we're going to make this happen. It's going to happen. And we're behind you. And that is instrumental. It really is. It makes a massive difference. And I've never experienced it before in any other place where I've done a comics event.
I'm getting a sense of shock from you.
Yeah, it's a revelation.
So really, no obstacles? You sure?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. Yeah. They've been fantastic. I mean, some of that obviously is because Jane is, she's an ex-mayor. She's still a councillor, so obviously she has some pull. She has some influence, and that's why she's an integral part of the team, as well as all of her other skills. She's a great people person. Great communicator, and she's brought in so many great organisations and people that I would never have been able to tap into. Straight away, that she has their ear. And we've basically, I've got the comic side of things. I know lots of people in the comic industry, so I've been able to bring all that in to make it happen. But to actually practically make it happen, Jane is that side of it. That's why it's a really good pairing, I think.
Well, I mean, speaking of sort of like the comic side of things, I mean, I've had a look, because sadly we've already spoken, but I can't attend, and I really wanted to go to the first year to see what it was like and stuff, but I'm going to be away for my 50th. So
I'm still getting over that.
You and me both, mate. And I've had 50 years to get used to it. But you've assembled in such a short space of time, and given the fact that there are a lot of comic conventions that are going through the year now, you've assembled quite the guest list.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud of the guest list, and it's not all down to me. Christian Ward has been really helpful. Obviously he's a guest, but he's also spoken to a couple of people and got them on board. Obviously Charlie has a lot of reach as well, so it is a team effort. I can't take all the credit for that guest list. Dan Berry was really helpful as well, got a couple of people on board, so it's been we've all got together and spoken to our contacts, and between us, because those guys have been instrumental. They're not just guests. Dan Berry, Christian Ward, John Wagner, Charlie Adlard, and Robbie Morrison, even though I don't think he can make the actual festival, has been really helpful. They've been fantastic, talking to their contacts, talking to artists that they know. So pulling in people, and some people who might have been on the fence, and it's like, oh, do I want to go to another one of Shane's cons? I've been to look at them. It's like, and then, but Charlie says it's going to be good, So it just takes them off the fence, and that's really good, because what's happened is, like you say, we've managed in a small space of time to assemble this. There's 45 guests, I think, altogether. from all over the world.
I was going to say, you've got quite a few international guests coming over, haven't you?
Yeah, and some of them are different, really different, and I'm really proud of the fact that it's a really varied guest list. I mean, we've got Eldo Yoshimizu, from Japan. Sorry if I said it wrong. My pronunciation wasn't very good then. He's amazing, absolutely amazing artist who I discovered online. I can't even remember how I discovered him. I'm always trawling online for interesting artists, and I just saw his work, and I just saw that he was, really sort of emerging in the UK.
Yeah.
As it happens, his book comes out on festival weekend, which is perfect timing. And the work that he's produced is just phenomenal, and a lovely man as well. Been dealing with him online, and a lovely guy. So that's just one example, of an international guest. Ben Stenbeck from New Zealand, all the way from New Zealand, who obviously has done incredible work on BPRD and Hellboy and all that sort. And I know you're a BPRD fan, so you're probably going to be familiar with some of his work.
Yeah, massively. Much more so over the last sort of few months, because I've been reading them back to back. So I don't know. You're
not buying the comics, are you? Buying the books? Yeah.
I'm buying the books. Yeah, I'm buying the sort of omnibuses and stuff.
I bet that's a really good way to read them, actually. I mean, I obviously read them as they come out, and if you did have the comics, you'd be able to see some of my letters in the letters pages, because it's one of the few comics, BPRD, that I actually write into on a regular basis. Because,
oh, really?
Yeah, because it's always so good.
I
want to comment, and I want to tell them what they're doing right, because sometimes, the storytelling is fantastic,
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to tell you that because I know you're a fan, but and to have Lawrence Campbell, Ben Stenbeck, and Duncan Fagredo as well at the show. At the festival is fantastic, and we're going to obviously take advantage of that. We're doing a Mignolaverse panel. We're interviewing each of those artists. Lawrence is also doing a talk about his work, so we're really making the most of those guys, because the work that Lawrence is doing at the moment on BPRD is just, you're catching up. You're not current, are you? You're sort of catching up.
No, I think the last volume that I read was I think it was volume 15 of the Hell on Earth. It was the last. It's the last volume of Hell on Earth.
Yeah. Oh, so you're up to date then?
I'm pretty much up to date now.
A couple of comics that have come out since then, I think.
And I know the last volume was pretty much all Lawrence's work.
Yeah.
And it's stunning.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Which is weird, because we did a panel with Lawrence at ICE, didn't we?
Yeah.
But back then I hadn't read a lot of BPRD, and I'd read Hellboy, but it was kind of it wasn't necessarily in order and stuff. And one of the things Lawrence had said was you could kind of read it. You didn't necessarily need to read it in order.
No,
but
you don't. Hellboy.
No, but I'd kind of made loads of people had said to me to read. We're going completely off topic, but loads of people had said to me that BPRD was right up my street and I should read it, and I should read it from the beginning. So they were doing, Comixology were doing a sale over Christmas. So and I have to thank Dave, because David picked up a load before I did, and then rang me and said, "You've got to get on this." So we were kind of one up each other over Christmas, because we were kind of like, I'd finished a volume, then I would text him, and then he'd finish a volume, then he'd text me back, and it kind of went on like that. And he's gutted now because I'm way ahead of him now, because he missed out on the last sale. So I just snapped up a load of the omnibuses. But yeah, so that, to be honest, that's the main panel that I'm gutted to be missing.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, some of the panels we'll hopefully have audio of, if the guests allow. Some guests obviously don't allow recordings, but a lot do, and I'm hoping that might be one that we can record on audio at least, if not video. So even though you might miss it, we can send you the audio.
One of the other things I noticed looking at some of the people involved in it is, which I found quite interesting. One of the people you got doing some of the interviews is, and I probably said his name wrong now, Jamali Maddox.
Yeah. That's a little story there as well.
Yeah, because I've only heard of him because I watched that. I think it's Frankie Boyle's New World Order.
Oh yeah, he's been on that, hasn't he?
And he's been on that, and that's the only time I've seen him anywhere. So when I saw his name, and then I kind of was like, is that the same guy? And I saw the picture. I was like, that is the same guy. And I was thinking, how the hell did he get involved with doing? Is he into comics? Did you just meet down the pub? What?
He is into comics. He's
Okay.
really he's into Vertigo and stuff like that. And he's going to be interviewing. Oh, I got him down to interview. I've got him down. I know I haven't announced it yet. But he's
well, you've got on the site. He's doing Charlie Adlard, isn't he?
I don't think he's interviewing Charlie.
Oh.
He is interviewing someone. He's interviewing a writer. 3 writers, I think.
Oh, it's how to be a comic writer.
Yes, he's got some, because he's really interested in writing his own comics, I think. Right. So I thought, well, let's get him on a panel with writers. And I've also got he's also going to be interviewing Frank Whiteley as well. So that's going to be interesting, I think. I haven't announced that one yet, so I better hurry up and get it online. But basically his agent got in touch with me and said, invited me to a gig originally, and I couldn't go because it was in London. But I was really interested because I'm a fan. I am a fan of him, but I don't know why he contacted me. Oh, that's right. Basically, I think he was just looking for people in comics who could sort of, talk to him about comics and stuff. So invite me to a gig. I couldn't attend, but I said, I'm doing this festival. If you want to come up, I'll put you up, and you can do what you like. You can interview people. You can just come along and hang out. And he's like, oh no, I want to be involved. I want to talk to writers and blah blah blah. And he just got involved, and we just got chatting on the phone. And we just hit it off a bit, and we were just talking about, what he might want to do, and it just sort of evolved from there, really, just from him reaching out to me, and it just evolved into what it is, and I'm really happy that he's involved because I think it'll just add another flavour to the whole proceeding, and he'll be a great host, I'm sure, interviewing these guys, and he'll do his homework, I'm sure. I hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but I think it'll be great. Yeah, so that's the story behind that one.
Oh, okay. So besides I had a question. I've got maybe 3 questions, and I'll wrap up. It's really funny because my wife said to me, "Why don't you go and do it earlier? Do it at 7." So she's expecting me to have been done like half an hour ago, and now she's sitting there going like, "What the fuck?"
You're not going to get the doghouse, are you?
Yeah, well, no, usual. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you actually, and it's a bit of a trick. It was not a trick question really, but what I noticed is that you're charging for your panels.
Yeah. So the event itself, like the festival, so meeting all the guests, all the kids events. Actually getting into all the venues, that's all free.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be as accessible as possible.
Yeah.
And then the panels and the interviews and all the workshops, access to editors, all that sort of thing that you would normally pay for, you pay. So if you want to like a more of a con experience and you want to go to panels and interviews and meet and all that sort of stuff and have one-to-ones and that's still an option, and it's cheap. Panels start at £5. So and we're doing a deal where you can get a super fan pass and it's £35 for the day, and you can go to all of the events for that day. And there are sort of, I think, about 25 to 30 events each day. I think it's 25 events each day. So there's lots and lots that you get for that, rather than that, like say because once you've paid for like 5 or 6 events, it's like, well, I may as well just get one of those tickets, and it's just a lot easier and stress free because you can just get into everything.
Sorry to interrupt. So I'm guessing then that on your site, not all the events have been announced yet.
No, I'm.
See, because I was. That's what sort of prompted the question, because I was looking, and I think on Sunday at the moment there were like only sort of 2 or 3 events on there.
Yeah, I'm still putting everything on.
Come on, Shane, crack on, mate.
I know. Not enough hours in the day, are there? Well, the idea is that we stick them on, and it gives people a chance to assimilate them,
right?
Rather than just throw everything up. and say, this is all the events. It's like, whoa, what's going on? So the idea is we put them on one at a time. So this is the event. Do you want to go to this one? This might be something. But the special tickets that are £35 for all of the events, they've been on sale since day one. So if you're the sort of person who just wants to do everything, you've always had that option. So the idea is that they're not going to go, oh, I'm going to buy that ticket and that. Oh no, I really want to get everything. So they've always had the option to buy everything.
Yeah.
And then we're just rolling out the events, as quickly as possible. If I wasn't talking to you tonight on here, I'd be putting events onto the website. I'll have you know.
Oh, here we go. Inside stars.
So there's a lot of really cool events that haven't been announced yet, like the Frank Quitely interview, like a workshop with Sonia Leong.
That would be a blinder. That would be.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah. And loads of other really cool stuff that I'm really excited to announce. I think we might have maybe not even half of the events are up yet.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to be starting rolling. They're going to be appearing, and people can buy those as they come up, or they can just wait and see what's. There's going to be plenty of time, because I'm hoping everything's going to be up in the next couple of weeks. So if people want to just then shop through everything, they can do. And if then they decide that they're better off buying the bulk ticket, they can do as well. And there's VIP options. We've got a VIP party on the Saturday night, which is, we've done good VIP parties before, as you know.
As I know.
Yeah, but this is something on another level. It really is. It's in a really cool nightclub. We've got Dan Owen playing live and some support acts as well. All the guests are going to be there. It's a really nice venue in like the top nightclub in town.
Right.
And it's going to be the best sort of VIP experience that we've ever put on, I think. Well, I say this because it's the first festival, so technically it's the only one. But I'm talking historically from what I've done in the past, with ice and stuff like that and Bix. We always try to do something special for the VIP evenings, and I think you can get a bit complacent sometimes, and it's like, we do this, we do that. It's like, well, let's think of something else, let's do something more. And so adding the live music, I think, is a nice touch, and the fact that it's in a really nice venue as well, it will make a big difference, I think. There's so many more guests than we'd normally have. Overseas guests. Usually at ICE I can only afford like 2 or 3 overseas guests, but we've got, I think, 9 overseas guests. For this one, that, and most of them, a lot of them are American, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, France, Spain, Italy, so people from all over the world, and obviously the UK guys there are the top people as well. Frank Quitely, Charlie Ardlard, those sort of people. That's the caliber, of names that we're bringing in. So it's going to be a star-studded occasion, and I'm really looking forward to it, actually. So that's another option, if you want to have the whole VIP experience, So, but the idea is we want it to be inclusive. We don't want it to be exclusive. So if you want to just come along and not spend any money at all and just enjoy the festival, you can do that for free.
I mean, that's fantastic. And that will obviously give you access to the exhibitors.
Exactly. There's no paying to get into exhibitors. I've always been of the belief, I've never been able to do it because it's not been viable commercially. I've always wanted not to charge people to come and see exhibitors, because why should you be charged to shop? So I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I've always wanted it to be free. So now that can happen, and people can just come along. They can discover all this amazing work from all these cool publishers and artists for free, and the great thing is the footfall in Shrewsbury is huge on a Saturday, so it's going to be really good footfall for anybody who's exhibiting, and that's exciting, because a lot of these indie creators don't get a chance for their work to really be seen by the general public. They're just seen by comics fans who've paid to get into a building, who probably, for the most part, not everybody, and it depends on the con. I mean, if you go somewhere like Thought Bubble, everybody knows what they're getting, and people are genuinely interested in indie comics. But a lot of cons, they go in and they're actually just interested in what they're interested in. They're just tunnel vision. I like this and I like that, and you can't always get people to look at especially fans, they don't want to look at other stuff, like indie stuff, whereas general public are a lot more open to that, to indie comics. I find, as an indie publisher myself, my most successful event that I did was an outdoor market in Manchester. It was an indie book market. It wasn't even a comics thing, and I took I think it was like 700 quid or something like that in a day. Great. And that was that, and which is good for any indie publisher will tell you that 700 quid is good. It's not very often you get those sort. And I think the only thing that ever matched it, I did really well in Brighton at Desi's thing in 2005. I think I took about 800 quid there. My own show actually at Bix, I set up a stall there once. I think I took about £1,000.
Right.
And the first Kapow, I think I took about £1,000 there. That was really good. But most shows, you're lucky to take 200 quid.
Yeah.
I know Thought Bubble I used to take between 150 and 200 quid. I tried an MCM once, but I think I took 50 quid. But there are. I know some people do really well at MCM, so that's not a reflection on MCM. That's a reflection on the fact that I wasn't selling what that audience wanted. I've completely forgotten my point now, but that was that's it. That's the experience that we want people to have.
Isn't it?
General public will buy. That's it. General public will buy anything. They don't have these preconceptions in the way that fans do sometimes. Obviously, there's the whole preconception of comics are for kids, comics for superheroes. Yeah, you've got to get over that one.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what the brands are and who the publisher is, they don't really see that so much. They're not quite so familiar with that.
Yeah.
So they're just a little bit more open because they're just like, well, I like that. I'll buy that because I like it.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's Marvel or DC or Image or whatever. They just like it, and that's the beauty of having space at an event like this, where you've got thousands and thousands of general public just pouring through.
Yeah.
We hope that will be really good for all the indie guys because we've got a market, an independent publishers market in the square. Which is a big open forum, and it's right by where Charlie's Walking Dead exhibition is going to be at the museum, which I haven't mentioned yet, but that's another big thing that we've got. And this amazing interactive Walking Dead exhibition, which is part of the festival, which is happening at the Museum and Art Gallery, which goes right onto the square. So it's great placement, for the indie guys, and there will be a couple of big name guests amongst them as well, just to ensure that they do get a good footfall from comics fans as well as general public. So we hope that we planned the layout of the festival, because you're not just laying out a floor in a room, you're laying out buildings,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it's quite a challenge to plan that. So I hope that the layout works for everyone. And obviously, there's going to be things that we get wrong. I'm sure there are, because it's the first time we've done it, and we're going to have to learn very quickly. But I'm hoping that it'll be as good as it possibly can be, and that everybody who does exhibit will do really well.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be a perfect time to sort of wrap up, really. Yeah. Hope everyone does really well. I mean, it sounds fantastic. It sounded fantastic anyway when I first looked at the site and when I first heard you sort of talking about it. And I knew I kind of wanted to get you on just to sort of grill you a little bit about it and find out a bit more. But now that I've spoken to you, I'm even more gutted now that I'm not going.
Oh, man, I'm really sorry you can't be there. It'd be lovely to see you.
Yeah. I wish. But fingers crossed, it will be a huge success and you'll be back next year and I'll be able to go next year.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, I can't announce the guests for next year yet.
But definitely doing it yesterday.
Sorry?
Are we definitely going to do it next year?
There's a plan to do it next year, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realise. I thought it was that kind of, we'll see how this goes.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, if it falls on its face, I'm not going to do it again. But the plan is there. We spoke to a couple of big names.
Oh, okay.
just you've got to plan that far ahead. Unfortunately, you've got to plan over a year ahead if you can.
Yeah.
Because we're now in April, so we're now at the point where we started this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to start planning next year if we're going to do it. So we have spoken to a couple of huge names. So I can't announce them, but yeah, it will be. Let's just say it'll be an upward journey this year to next year. So we're hoping that everything goes to plan, because what we've got planned, not just next year, but going on and on, it's how we want to expand it into the whole town. I mean, we're taking over the town as it is, but there are other venues as well that we could use. But there's only so much we can do at the moment.
Yeah.
So the potential in Shrewsbury, with it being a festival town, with it having a festival park, that we're not even using the festival park, because we don't need to. But there's a whole park there that we could fill, and then it would be like Angoulême,
Yeah.
So there's so much potential for growth. If that's what people want, if the town, if the public want that festival, and if the comics industry and the comics fans want a festival like this, then we'll provide it.
Yeah.
And you only want to do stuff if there's a need or a desire for it, though. So you have to sort of make sure that what we're doing is something that actually people really do want. But from what I can tell, talking to people like yourself and other people, in the industry and fans, it's like they're thirsty, they're hungry for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you
this
said,
time of year,
Yeah, it's something different. It's a good time of the year. It's not stepping on too many. Well, it's not really. I mean, I know you've got MCM before, but they're very different events.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see hardly any crossover, to be honest.
No, they're very different events.
They are very, very different events. I mean, we're completely about comics. Obviously, with it being a festival, we can be open, so we can have other stuff going on that isn't specifically comics. That is just part of being a festival. Like Glastonbury, they have stuff that isn't just music; it's a festival.
Yeah.
So there is other stuff, but we are a comics festival, and all the guests, predominantly the guests are comic creators. But there is lots of other stuff going on, obviously. So yeah, I think people want something in the summer, in the middle of the summer, that is in the middle of the country, which I think will be really nice. Something that everyone can go to every year, and really enjoy, as a summer festival event, for comics. And it's just, for one reason or another, that's not something we've ever really had, and what the Lakes do is fantastic in Kendal. What Thought Bubble have done, they've done some great work in Leeds, and all the cons, brilliant. But I think this is just something a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best and all the success in the world of it, Shane.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, really hope it goes well for you guys. Before I let you go, he says I need to stop recording as well, so I need to keep you on the line whilst it saves everything off. Can you just let listeners know where they can find out more about Comics Salopia? Yes, got it right.
Of course, and well done on the correct pronunciation.
Thank you.
Yes, you can reach us on Twitter at, I think it's Salopia, and then also on Instagram at Salopia, but I could be wrong there. The main port of call is to go to www.comicsalopia.com with 2 S's, so you're using both S's. And also we have an app, a custom-built app, which is called Comics Salopia, strangely enough, and that is on both Play and the Apple Store. I think is it called the Apple Store?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know because I've never had an Apple.
Is it Apple? Yeah, I think it's the Apple Store. No, I'm Android, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm Android. I always have been. So, but yeah, it's on both formats, and that's great. The app basically can help you keep up to date with what events you've booked and what guests are coming and all that sort of thing. It's a really useful tool.
Cool. Okay. Right. Well, all it remains for me to say is thanks for taking time out your busy schedule to come on and have a bit of a chat.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate, as always.
As always, sir. Right. Let me stop. It says